Okay, I'm going live right now. There we go. We're in my office today. A little bit of a change up here. Let me see if I can make the lighting better. There we go. All right. We're starting just a little bit early on Facebook so we can get all this. Oh boy, wait. Oh shoot, I'm messing everything up. No. 1 second, everybody. Oh, here we go, perfect. Oh, live. Okay, so we're all set here. Wait, gotta flip. Hey, what the heck is going on here? Flip that around. Sorry guys, 1 second. Technical difficulties. Just gotta get the... Oh, dude, you serious? Oh, I hit the live. We're live on Instagram. Alright. We're in my office today, everybody. I got one more live thing to set up. I'm just trying to get the lighting perfect on Facebook. Okay, here we go. Okay, and we're doing D-Live. If I can get this to work. Save and go live. Almost there, everybody. Here we go. Start live streaming. We're going to turn the volume down. Master. Oh, it's all working good. Hello, everybody. This is Matt Monarch with the rawfoodworld.com. Hey, Crystal, is it possible? I've got my setup in such a way to where I'm not going to be able to read the Instagram messages. Can you Skype them to me, or is that a pain in the butt? Okay, everybody. Okay, everything's working on over there, and we are good to go. We're doing it from my office this time. My lighting sucks on news, not the right. Come on, this angle changes everything in terms of lighting. What's up, Victoria? Like Katy Perry. Whatever. I don't care. Okay, so this evening, we are going to be talking about spiritual nutrition. That's right. That's what the week's theme has been. Is there any way to see the questions on D-Live? Because I have no idea how this works. 2 people are watching, views. Where are the comments at? Chat room. Oh, that might be it. Okay. So here we go. I've got my cucumber juice. We're everywhere. We're at news.therawfoodworld.com/live. We're on Facebook Live. We're on Instagram Live. And now we're on D-Live. So here, let's take a look. If we got any questions so far. Someone's asking, how do I take sunflower less than? I tend to put things directly under my tongue for better absorption. I do this with your Macopa and Bacopa, Macunia and Bacopa, wondering if you'd benefit most. I do the same with sunflower lecithin powder. We're going to be talking about sunflower lecithin big time today. There are some people who regret they haven't been eating 100% raw food, Matt. Matt, tell me, don't you regret that you haven't been doing dry fasting? I've done 2 dry fasts. They're asking me how many times I've done dry fasting. And then they say, people after a dry fast balanced immediately, and you said on your Hangout, Overcoming Failure, that it took you 15 years to take you balanced emotionally, or even you are still not completely balanced. I don't know if I'll ever be balanced, actually. This whole concept, dry fasting is going to balance you out emotionally? You kidding me? I've done 2 dry fasts, 72 hours. Probably made me more crazy. Okay. Just looking at the basic questions here real quick. Okay, so here we go. What we're going to do is talk about spiritual nutrition. Now, before we get into spiritual nutrition, what I want to discuss is a few things about, let's just kind of talk about how there is a spiritual world that exists. Because if we don't believe in, like, that there's something else out there, then all this is kind of useless. But so how can I come up with some obvious things that can show that there is an invisible spiritual world out there and it does exist? For example, we all have 5 senses that measures the physical world. We've got smell, touch, taste, sight, hearing, feeling, all these different things. And those 5 senses, that's what we were taught in school, is pretty much everything that we feel physically. Now, anything that we don't feel that is part of these 5 senses, taste, smell, sound, sight, touch, would mean we're dealing with the 6th sense here. So anything that is not of the 5 senses would be of the 6th sense. For example, maybe emotions is one example. Fear. These are all invisible things. The only way they can be measured by science is because they actually impact the human body physically. You could like measure like your heart rate go up and things like this, and they call it fear. These are just like normal things that happen. But what is fear? What is it? What are all of these feelings and emotions? They're invisible. They're coming from somewhere, right? So, do you think you generate it? Okay, some other examples are sometimes we get like crazy demented thoughts that generally are not our own. These are like, you know, maybe you're just sitting there chilling and all of a sudden you get this like strange, weird desire, thought, and urge to like take the scissors and stab the dog. We've used that example many times. But obviously we're not going to react on that. Just like when we get angry, we know how to not go ballistic and throw things around. Well, most of us know how to do that. And we focus and we watch the anger dissipate. So when we get certain urges and desires, such as like taking the scissors and stabbing the dog, most of us know how to control that, and we purposefully would not choose to think these things. These are foreign thoughts. They come from outside places and things like this. So this whole entire, here, let me see if I can come up with more examples. I was doing some things over here. So for example, when we're talking about diet, many of us can't succeed at choosing what we put in our own mouth. This has like been a big problem for many people because physically, when we want to improve our diet, it's very easy. All we have to do is control what we put in our mouth. But when we do something like this, there's an entire physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual experience that doesn't enable us to actually do this, and we kind of lose control. Many people improve their diets, they get off coffee, they get off cigarettes, and they lose control. They don't have the willpower, they just lose control, smoke their cigarette, drink their coffee, or eat Twinkies when they want to be eating healthy. So what is happening during these moments? What is happening is we're going into a deep suffering whenever we improve our diet. And most people don't want to make lifestyle changes because what's going to happen is you're going to suffer. And it's very rare for someone to get through that point of suffering to actually control yourself. But if you can do that, you're way ahead of the curve. Like 80 to 95% of the people in the world, well, in first world countries, don't have the ability to control what they put in their mouth or choose, or they don't want to change, which is fine, that's no big deal. But if someone is wanting to change, they can't control because of the emotional, spiritual. What is happening when you lose control? There's the withdrawal aspect physically, there's the emotional aspect, and then there's the spiritual aspect. Something is getting us, we go into suffering, and then all of a sudden, we buckle, and if you could just seriously control what you put in your mouth, and endure through the suffering, then congratulations, like you're doing something amazing. And then when you're hanging out with your friends, you're going to be the youngest looking one your age, you're going to have the biggest, like, you're going to feel really good, probably have more energy and things like this. Anyway, so I'm just trying to come up with proofs that the spiritual world exists. For example, let's say you're walking down the street, you're all by yourself, and then all of a sudden you're really calm, everything's going really good, and then all of a sudden you see someone in your distance, and all of a sudden that calmness kind of disappears. Now you're kind of like on guard, and until this person is completely out of your reality, there's kind of like this uncomfortable feeling. There's a spiritual experience going on here. Or for example, you get in a fight with a relative or family member, and then ego comes up and it gets really intense, really intense. There's a spiritual factor at play. For example, let's just go into like last week's Hangout where we're giving examples. The water emoto experience, where people can literally put intent on water, and then the ones with more beautiful, kind, intents, the water crystals are much more beautiful, but more like anger and like screw off and all these other things would put an uglier, not as beautifully aesthetic water crystals in that water image. And we gave clinical studies last week where people have put intent and meditated on healing people at a distance. And they actually had success. Their markers would change while they were doing this. Their blood rates would go up, their autonomic nervous system would change and fluctuate. There were other experiments where they were blessing food, and the people who had the blessed food were in a heightened mood. Meditators gave examples of trying to make a leaf glow, and in a biophoton camera that can measure this type of thing, the leaf was the one that they put their attention on, glowed even more. There was another clinical study where 10,000 meditators tried to raise the pH of water in a glass. The pH of the water did rise, and then when they stopped, whenever they put water in that room, that water would just automatically raise because they changed the structure of that room with the intent for the pH to rise. So we have all of these special abilities and powers that we don't even realize we're utilizing on an ongoing basis. Now, excuse me, science can never measure this type of thing because it's happening in the invisible spiritual world. However, certain physical components can be shown up to where we can kind of measure certain aspects of it. We'll never get a full understanding. Excuse me. And today, we're going to be talking about those physical components that we can see that can enable us to nourish ourselves spiritually, so our spiritual faculties are nourished, have the fuel necessary, needed in order to be activated to where we could alter water, where we could, like the emoto experience, like where we could help heal someone at a distance more effectively and things like this. And so what we're going to be talking about today is nutrition that actually fuels this type of thing. And where we're going to start with is it's been known in all sorts of religions and mystic Eastern mythicism and stuff like that the pineal gland, also known as the third eye chakra, is the main spiritual organ. Some have called it the antenna to the spiritual world. Excuse me, I just got over a cold and I was almost going to skip this, but I decided not to because I'm badass. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so we've got the pineal gland. This is like the spiritual organ, and we want to make sure that we are nourishing it to the best of our ability. So we have the pineal gland, and neurotransmitters in the brain are always firing off postsynaptic firings and creating all sorts of invisible frequencies happening. They work closely with the pineal gland, and all sorts of wondrous things are happening in this that we'll never be able to quite fully understand. So let's take a look at all this. And first we're going to start with the pineal gland. And the pineal gland, I wish I could show you my computer screen. I got to find out a program for this. The pineal gland has more lecithin. Now, lecithin is organic phosphorus. Oh, I just nailed that. Lecithin equals organic phosphorus. That's what lecithin is. So the pineal gland has more lecithin in it compared to any other body part in the human body. And lecithin is actually the precursor to acetylcholine. Now, acetylcholine is the like the main neurotransmitter in the human brain. It goes all throughout the body, but it's in charge of like short-term memory, motor things, like being able to function and all these other things in our brain. It's actually been shown in clinical studies that it might be good for memory and things like this. And maybe it's good for people with Alzheimer's patients. There was actually a clinical study that showed Alzheimer's patients had more calcification in their pineal glands compared to people that didn't have Alzheimer's. Yeah. So, lecithin, just based off of this, is the ideal food. It is the actual required building blocks. It's a precursor to acetylcholine, which has been shown to be associated with the pineal gland and works with it in clinical studies. And the pineal gland is loaded with lecithin, more than any other body part. Now, what happens is, it is very common these days that people's pineal glands become calcified. And one of the reasons why this happens, it's various reasons, but if you're not getting enough lecithin, organic phosphorus, then your body's going to pull it's going to pull phosphates from wherever it can get. And in today's day and age where we're drinking fluoridated water, taking pharmaceutical drugs, eating processed foods, all of these things are loaded with inorganic phosphates, calcium carbonates, phosphates, all these different things. And what happens is the pineal gland will take whatever it gets. It doesn't differentiate between the inorganic and the organic, especially when it's lacking in organic lecithin. It will take these inorganic phosphates and decalcify. It's very common. I have actually a picture of a in my articles on if you're not on my newsletter list at therawfoodworld.com, you should join, because I put articles out all the time. And it's also been shown very common that because of the way we've been treating ourselves, that even 2-year-olds have calcified pineal glands these days. It's pretty crazy. So the way to rectify this is, first off, stop drinking fluoridated water, get off the calcium supplements with calcium carbonate, any inorganic phosphates, improve your diet if you can, and your pineal gland will respond immediately to this. But something we can do that's extremely potent and powerful is to feed ourselves on an ongoing basis organic 100 lecithin, organic phosphate lecithin. That's what we just came out with. It's a new product. We already sold out the first batch, and more arrives Tuesday. That's when it will ship if you get it. But this is a very pure, clean lecithin. And if you take it on an ongoing basis every day, like I've started to do, all you need is 2 teaspoons, will last you over 2 months, 1 bag. You are nourishing, you're providing the precursors to acetylcholine on an ongoing basis. You are feeding your pineal gland. You are continually introducing these things, so your body has this organic phosphorus available to it at all times. It's one of my new favorite superfoods, sunflower lecithin. It has 25% more choline than the soy lecithin. Ours is non-GMO, 100% organic, and we just came out, it's never been seen before, the first 100% raw lecithin available. It's also incredible in recipes, raw food recipes. It acts as a thickener. It's an emulsifier, meaning it makes it so water and fat don't mix. It makes things like almost have this fluffy texture. I did articles on this too. But I pretty much use it as a supplement. I put it in my salads. You can put it anywhere. Someone's asking how to use it. You can just take it straight if you wanted to, but I just put it with my meals. It's also been shown, and I'm coming out with an article with this tomorrow, that lecithin has been shown to increase the absorption of CBD and THC. We're about to get more into the spiritual stuff of how this, in a second, we're going into quantum physics in a moment. But there is a US patent stating that lecithin increases the absorption of CBD and THC. This is absolutely crazy. This is why many of the marijuana edibles contain lecithin, because it increases the absorption. They get more absorption of the CBD and THC very rapidly. Also, lecithin is not only a precursor to acetylcholine and the pineal gland, but it is also a precursor to phospholipids. It actually phospholipids are pretty much made out of this stuff. And phospholipids not only protect our nerve endings, but also they are pretty much the biggest component of our cell membrane. So this is one of the reasons why it will enable you to absorb better. And in fact, our cell membranes are made out of lecithin, phospholipids. So therefore, if you have absorption issues, if you were to take this on an ongoing basis, organic phosphorus through lecithin, then this has the potential possibly to restructure and heal and rebuild the cell membranes around all of your cell membranes. So this is a very powerful, potent product. Many people are into our CBD oil. Our CBD oil is 100% raw. It's very pure and everything like this. If you were to take this with it, there was a clinical study done on rats where they showed that the THC increased absorption by 2 to 2.5 times, and CBD increased by 3-fold. So if you were to take this with our CBD oil, you're probably going to feel it stronger, you're going to feel it faster, and you can either take it's almost like getting a higher dosage, even though it doesn't make the CBD stronger, you're just absorbing more. So you can either save money and take a smaller dosage, or you can just take the same dosage and get a bigger dose of the CBD. This might be like what a lot of people are looking for better absorption. Maybe the CBD is not working because of something like this. So lecithin is pretty awesome. And also our lecithin, we had the option to get a very inexpensive lecithin that was certified organic, cold pressed, but it's organic, but it had a high bacteria count and a high heavy metal count. But it was organic. I don't know, it was crazy. The stuff that we have is extremely pure, tested and all verified and everything like this, and 100% raw. Okay, so as I've been trying to study how we can nourish and fuel our spiritual faculties through superfoods and foods and things like this, I came across quantum physics. Now, I wasn't expecting to dive into quantum physics, but as soon as I started reading this, I was blown away at what I was discovering here. I literally spent countless hours and days studying quantum physics. I'm talking about going deep into it. I had to look up every quantum physics word that I came across because I had no idea what it would mean. Look it up on Google and then read it again. I'd have to look up every single word like 10 times until it finally just like clicked and flowed. So we're going to dive into quantum physics here and show how organic phosphorus has the potential to be a very powerful fuel And it may be the very fuel, not only for all these precursors and things like this, but it may be the very fuel that enables us to restructure water, to, like in the Emoto experiments, heal people at a distance, like in the clinical studies I showed last week, and all of these other invisible things that science can't really show. And I discovered this through quantum physics. But real quickly, there was a clinical study here in my article that showed that if you take lecithin, it increases your choline plasma levels by 2 times. Choline is like an essential nutrient. We need it for our brain, let alone all these spiritual faculties. And the research also shows if you're deficient, your lecithin, your choline plasma levels reduce to 50%. So it's a very powerful thing. We want to be making sure that we're getting a clean, pure lecithin every single day to nourish this type of thing. So here I was jumping into quantum physics. Now, the recommended dosage for taking lecithin every day is anywhere between 425 to 550 milligrams. I think for women it's a little bit less, for men it's a little bit higher. 2 teaspoons of our lecithin will provide more than 2 times that amount. You could literally take 1 teaspoon. In recipes, you usually take a tablespoon or more to like thicken it and like turn it into that almost fluffy texture like raw frostings and ice cream. It's an emulsifier. Many people are using this in salad dressings, all sorts of things. And it's very healthy, but they're not using a pure one like this or 100% raw most of the time. So you could, this one bag, if you were to take 1 teaspoon, which would give you all the requirements, would probably last you like 4, 5, 6 months, maybe 3, 4 months. But if I take double that every day, so it will last me like 2 months. So, so when I jumped into quantum physics, the first concept that I had to learn, many people already know about this, so they'll probably understand what this is quantum entanglement. This allows, excuse me, I'm about to burp, one particle in space and time to instantaneously influence another, but not in the way that classical informational travels faster than light. What we want to think about is information travel. So what it is, quantum entanglement, it's not like, okay, this thing is going to communicate with this thing by shooting a laser from here to here. No, it's almost like in quantum entanglement, these 2 particles practically have the same existence. They're so closely related that they practically coexist. And as soon as this one has information, this particle instantly has it also. Not through time and space, just from here to here, boom. This is this is like proven in quantum physics. It's like have people baffled. Einstein calls stuff like this spooky action at a distance, which we're going to talk about in a second. He just couldn't figure it out. So it's when 2 particles are so deeply linked that they share the same existence. And they can be spread from like one part of the universe of space to another one, and they can still communicate and stuff like this. So therefore, through quantum entanglement, the transfer of information is immediate without traveling through time or space. It's just immediate. This might show why the 100th monkey effect works. This may be the very reason why healing someone from a distance works, or blessing food, or the Emoto experiences where water is transformed based on your intent. Quantum entanglement might be the very reasoning this is happening. What is the 100th monkey effect? The 100th monkey effect was where they had these monkeys on an island. They discovered something about potatoes or something, I can't remember 100%, where they planted it in a certain way. They had to like try multiple ways until they figured it out. And as soon as this island figured something out, the consciousness of monkeys on another island got it without any experimentation. They just like knew immediately. It's like it just transferred through outer space. So a lot of the inner workings behind this type of thing is going down in the spiritual world, and science can't measure the spiritual world, so it's impossible to see. But certain physical components can actually surface that we can measure. And this led me to a quantum physicist named Matthew Fisher. And he discovered, when working with mental disorders, that the nuclei of phosphorus atoms in like lecithin have nuclear spins, which can resist decoherence, meaning it can resist decay from its outside environment. Calcium, oxygen, all of the other elements really can't do this. But phosphorus has this very special nature. And what happened was he has like family that has a history of mental illness. So he was trying to figure out how to heal them. And he was wondering, why is it that lithium drugs can actually help bipolar? And he discovered they have like certain spins. And then that's when he discovered the phosphorus had a spin. And then he discovered the Posner molecule, which has calcium ions and is loaded with phosphate ions from phosphorus. So what he began to... So most elements, we're getting deep into quantum physics now here. So I'm going to try to keep everything in layman terms, and we're going to get really excited here. Okay, so most elements are affected by their diet, by their environment, and they decohere, they decay almost immediately. So that means that the phosphate ions can live long enough to quantum entangle and be operative in the brain. Because they can live long enough, these phosphate ions, they can quantum entangle, meaning they can live long enough to where they can actually become existence in outer space with like these other particles and become operative in the brain. We're talking about neural processing. So now we're about to dive into some spiritual aspects here that can be measured. So he then goes on to state that these phosphorus atoms can be incorporated into larger Posner molecules that have been discovered, which contain the phosphate ions. And it also contains calcium ions on the outside of it and oxygen ions. So these Posner molecules can actually keep these phosphate ions alive for even longer, even more than a day. And in the quantum physics world, a day is like thousands of years in our human life existence. Because if you think about it, we're consistently, on an ongoing basis, using our spiritual faculties, whether we're doing it consciously or unconsciously, whether we're hating on someone or loving somebody. Whenever you judge someone, they're going to feel it, and it's going to be uncomfortable. You're seriously shooting invisible frequencies at a person, and they feel it. Or like when you get in a fight with someone, this is what's going on. So we're continually using these things. So if phosphate ions cannot decohere in an entire day, this is ridiculously huge. So long coherence times are key for their role in serving in neural quantum information. If two entangled phosphate ions are taken up by different Posner molecules, two such signals might thus in turn become entangled, which could function as a human thought, you might say. So now we're talking about being able to measure. Thoughts are things, people say, but they're also invisible. Can someone actually see what a thought is that someone's having? But we're realizing here that phosphorus, these phosphate ions, may actually be matter that contains our thoughts or the ability to quantum entangle. It's almost like you put your intent on something, you're magnifying, you're attracting, you're creating, I don't even know what you're doing, but you're creating a frequency. It's almost like entangled particles you can create. If you're trying to, let's say you are trying to heal someone from a distance, your mom, for example. Your mom, you probably have everybody has like a spiritual signature, they call it, meaning their being has a certain vibration and feeling that's associated with them. So you can actually tune into your mom and you'll probably feel and see something familiar, like a spiritual frequency. It's a signature that you're used to. You'll know it's them. Everyone has like their individual signature. So if you're trying to heal your mom from a distance, you would kind of like tune into your mom, tuning your frequency into your mom, and now you're going to put your intent to heal. So you're kind of like matching the frequency of your mom to where our spiritual faculties, we might be doing unconsciously, but we're so fine-tuned, we can exactly match the frequency of our mom to where you're attracting, creating, or tuning in to entangled particles that are associated with your mom, to now where you're opening the doors of quantum entanglement to where you can transfer healing energy and information to her through the concept of quantum entanglement. Now, I was studying all this, and I got that download after I took some of our Ormus. I was just like flying on this stuff. I took a lot. You don't want to do that a lot of the time. I think one of the reasons I went like a few days taking a lot, and I couldn't sleep, and I was just like being creative and doing all these things. And I'm not saying that's what got me sick, but I didn't sleep much. My immune system, all that stuff. And then I got stressed. I had some issues with some other things. But this stuff is very. We'll get into the Ormus in a little bit. But so we're talking about quantum entanglement here. So what we're discovering here possibly is this guy, Matthew Fisher, identifies how phosphorus could be the neural information while with the phosphate ions as the possible information transporter. So what he goes on to say is multiple entangled positive molecules, which serve as quantum thoughts, human thoughts, can chemically bind. So you have two quantum entangled positive molecules that bind and subsequently melt, releasing a shower of intracellular ions that trigger further neurotransmitter release and enhance the probability of postsynaptic neuron firing. So now this is like the action of sending information, healing energy, or whatever it is, change the Emoto experiments. You're trying to change the frequency of water. The end result could lead to a triggering of non-local quantum correlations, meaning that you're affecting something at a distance, quantum at a distance, correlation, so you're like with your mom, the correlations, what Einstein called spooky actions at a distance, a neurotransmitter release and postsynaptic firing across multiple neurons. Einstein was asked, like, what is this? He's like, I don't know. Like, he would try to prove his information, and sometimes people would be like, what's going on here? And you'd be like, it's spooky action at a distance. He was like freaked out. So the spooky action at a distance is what we've been talking about in regards to our spiritual abilities to heal someone from a distance, to change water like in the Emoto experiments, to bless food and have it bless water, have it have a impact on it. We're always talking about the placebo effect. The placebo effect is a very powerful tool. It can help heal you from disease by taking a pill that has 0 active ingredients based off belief you heal from. It's been shown in clinical studies, IBS, Parkinson's disease, cancer, Crohn's disease, all sorts of things. People have healed just instantly. Fake knee surgeries. Their knee is messed up, and then all of a sudden they get like a slit and they sew it back up without doing anything, and they think their knee's healed. They're completely healed. But the danger of the placebo effect is it can also work against you, and that's what's happening most at a times for most people. You go to the doctor, they tell you that you have a thyroid issue, that you have cancer, you have 5 months to live. This is the placebo. You believe these authoritative figures, and then it's the placebo effect working against you, and it's a very powerful tool. If it can heal you from disease, it can also give you disease. But if you're strong like Tony Robbins, who said no when the doctor said we had to cut his brain open because he has a tumor on his pituitary gland, and they told him that they had to put him on meds, he just said, no, I don't accept that. 30 years later, he still has that tumor in his brain. He doesn't worry about his cancer. He's one of the most successful men I know that I've heard of, and energetic and happy. So we want to fuel our spiritual faculties to where that would include our manifesting powers, to fight for our belief, to fight that we believe that we're healthy, that there's nothing wrong with us. We have all these patterns where we freak out about our beauty, we're too overweight, we've got zits, we've got wrinkles, all these different things, and we worry in the mirror, whatever we're doing. We want to go against that. And in order to do that, we need to use our spiritual faculties to do that. So, lecithin may very well be the building blocks to all of these spiritual processes. It might be the key to uncalcify your pineal gland. Of course, we want to eliminate the things that causes the calcification. But this might be the thing where you're going to nourish your pineal gland like crazy. This is the nutrient that's going to be the precursor to phospholipids and acetylcholine, which works with the pineal gland, as shown in clinical studies. These are invisible frequencies that we're completely shooting off all the time. This may very well be, it says right here, the idea that phosphorus can sustain a quantum state is one step closer, and lecithin is definitely the way to go. Science will never be able to get a full understanding of all these things we're talking about, but since we can pick up on certain aspects like we're talking about today in quantum physics, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about how we might be discovering here that organic phosphorus is the actual key building blocks, precursors to our spiritual faculties. They have that negative spin that no other elements have. They can resist decoherence. And regardless if these theories are true or not, it is the precursor to acetylcholine. It is loaded. The pineal gland has more lecithin in it than any other human body part. So regardless, through these two pathways, I feel it's critical to be taking this on an ongoing basis. And I love this quantum physics thing. It makes sense to me. Okay, so Okay, so we're using our spiritual faculties all day long. So regardless if they're true or not, we're continually using our brains and spiritual powers all day long. It's just what we do. And remember, these resist decoherence for an entire day. So we need to be continually replenishing this. Now we're going to talk about some other spiritual nutrient. Okay, so the number one thing that I'm most excited about for spiritual nutrition is this new organic, 100% raw sunflower lecithin. This is an extremely pure source, and I'm very excited about it. This is like the number one thing we can do. They're the building blocks, precursors to these glands and organs and things like that. And furthermore, we're discovering how it can even be more. And I love it. And phospholipids for absorption. So one issue that we have, one of the reasons why we have this decalcification is we're lacking in lecithin. Now, the acetylcholine neurotransmitters are working all throughout the body all day long, sending communications in the brain, in the body, doing all sorts of things. Now, if we're not getting enough lecithin in our diets, then the acetylcholine needs its precursors. So it's going to grab it from wherever it can. It will get it from inorganic elements, but also it will pull it from the pineal gland because it's loaded with lecithin. Where else is it going to get it? Why is our pineal glands becoming calcified? If we had all the amounts of lecithin in there, we wouldn't have to worry about it. This is my theory. I'm not saying it's like a fact, but it's pretty obvious to me that if we don't get enough lecithin and there's certain body parts that need this type of thing, it's going to take it from wherever it can get it. So there are some herbs that we can take that can actually conserve our lecithin, our lecithin in our pineal gland and things like this. It's been stated in Ayurvedic traditions and some other people that I know who have tried it, who are heightened. The combination of mucunya and bacopa, these two herbs, have been known to open the third eye. Now, I wanted to discover why, so I did all of the research to try all the scientific research to try to get down to the bottom of it. And what I discovered was that there was a clinical study done on bacopa. Now, acetylcholine, there's an enzyme called acetylcholine, anti-acetylcholine sterase. And what this does is it breaks down acetylcholine, and it won't float in our bodies as long enough and to be utilized as long as we possibly can. So there's a drug, pharmaceutical drug for people with Alzheimer's, dementia, and things like that, which are acetylcholine sterase inhibitors, which allows the acetylcholine to travel longer and be more use in the body, and the enzymes don't break it down. So if it breaks it down, then the next acetylcholine is going to need more lecithin. So in this clinical study, it showed that Bacopa was a better enzyme inhibitor for acetylcholine sterase it was more effective than all three of these pharmaceutical drugs. And this is just a natural herb that's great for brain processing. It's been known to open the third eye and all these other things. So you're conserving your lecithin by conserving your acetylcholine. That's what Bacopa does. That's why that has been as an herb that can actually help our third eye. Now, the Mucunia aspect is very interesting in regards to this, because Mucunia has more L-dopa, which is a precursor to dopamine, compared to any other food or herb on the planet. So it has L-dopa, which is a precursor to dopamine. Now, that's what Mucunia has. Now, many of us drink coffee, caffeine, do street drugs, and what this does, there's no judging on my end, but what this does is, the reason why it's so good, that we love it so much, is because it takes your neurotransmitters and dopamine. The dopamine is the feel-good molecule. It will take your stores, throw it so it's recycling in the human body, and then the good aspect of these drugs and caffeine is it tricks the body to not break down, and it stays cycling for a while. And then you get this really good high, you have more focus, you have more concentration, you have that oomph to get up and get out of bed and go to work mode. That's what dopamine does. But the issue with this is it depletes your reserves of dopamine. And